We're now on the final throw of the dice, I think, because we're now in a position where we can start to build the new coaling facilities at Lees. That's the ones that replace this one which is now defunct and the lines have gone to it. But you see this little gradient here where this shunter is. Well, it's got the coal wagons at the top, and there was actually a lean-to coming up here, going over it, and that's what we're going to build next. And also there was a very dilapidated buffer stop at the back of it, so I'm going to try and recreate that too. So I've got some photographs and I'll show you what it is, what we're going to try and attempt. Well, this is what I'm trying to recreate. This is the one that we've just done here, the old water tower with the tank on top, and this is the new one here that I'm going to try and build. So it's an L-shaped structure that's cantilevered. It covers over all the wagons as they go in, so that when they're distributing the coal, obviously if it's raining they're not getting wet through. So that's the next stage of the development. And this is a view of a similar structure. It's just to give me the ideas. It looks very flimsily built, but it's obviously quite substantial enough to stand up to all the weather and everything. Now this is not at Lees, I must emphasise that. This is not at Lees. This is one that is from another coaling stage. I don't know where it is, but it's a picture I found and it's what I'm going to try and recreate. Well, the more informed we are, the better. So this is another view. This is the one at Lees. So this is exactly what I want to reproduce. This is the final one we're going to look at now. This is a view from the other side. This is at Lees, and that's the good shed in the background there. But you can also notice the sort of dilapidated buffer stop that they've got here with a couple of sleepers holding it in place. So again, that's what I want to recreate. So you can see both lines there clearly, and you can see the shape of the structure that I need to recreate. Well, there's no real hard or fast rules here. So what I've done, I've just taken a prototype, made it out of cardboard like this, very simple, just to get the proportions right. And this is my first attempt actually, and I think that's pretty good. Going off the photos that I've got, that's about the right height for the coal wagons to go under. And if I just move that out of the way, you'll see that locomotives can also pass through without any restrictions at all. So I'm going to base that as the right size, and I'm quite happy with the way that's going to work out. If I try it in a position over here as well, then that's going to work as well. I'll just move that coal wagon down a bit, because I anticipate it's going to go somewhere around about here. So it's obviously going to have to be built up to track level here. So that's got the same proportion now. So I'm just going to leave that there for a second, and you can see that that is just going to work out a-okay. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to start constructing something now out of something a little bit more substantial, and we'll see how it develops. So this is what I'm attempting to build now, this little structure here, and I'm going to slightly taper it so that the rain goes off it. So that's my prototype. And what I've done to make this wall here, what I've done is I've built this little structure here, which is just basically balsa wood, and it's got 4 reinforcing triangles on it. Strongest way of reinforcing anything, make it very strong with that triangle. And I've also cut 2 pieces of balsa wood here now. What I'm going to do on the end here, I've got these, and I've done them at an angle so that it's got actually a little bit thicker balsa wood there. But when I get that on there, I'll show it you this way because it's easier. So that's got a slight inclination on it now. It's very difficult for me to hold in position. Let's put it there for instance, right? So it's got a very, it'll be horizontal at the bottom here, and it'll be just raised slightly at the top, so that when the roof goes on it rolls off. So I've got that to go on this side, and I've also got one to go on the other side too. So when we get those two glued in position, can you just about see that? There we go. Get those two glued in position, and then we can put a fascia on the front, and then we're ready for covering it. So it shouldn't be too long now. That's the main part of the structure over with. The next stage of development is now underway, because the two side pieces now, the tapered pieces, are now in place and they're glued, and my trusty old irons are there doing the job again. Oh, how could I live without those things? They're irreplaceable. I've now got the two side pieces glued on, and you can see I've also reinforced those with triangular pieces of balsa wood. So now all I need on here is the front fascia for it, and then it can be covered. So I'm going to try it on the track now and see what it looks like. So I just bunged a hole in the scenery there, and I've just stood it in position, and I think it looks quite well actually. And I've got a locomotive and I've tried it for size, and it clears, everything clears okay. I also tried the coal wagon as well, no problems with that. So that's going to be the position. So I think I'm now in a position to probably cover this up, put the front fascia board on, get the roof on, and then get it into place. I'm just in the process now of making some corrugated iron, which comes from cardboard in different sizes, and this is all I've got, so I'm going to try it, and if it looks too big I'll use something else, I'll find something later. But it's a nice little tip if you've never thought of it. Good way of getting corrugated iron. Now I've got the main structure up now, as you can see. Everything worked out okay, and I've got some corrugated iron, but I'm not happy with it. I don't think that's going to work because it's too big, so I need to find some finer corrugated paper to do that. I've also just started working on the buffer stop, and just with a pair of simple needle nose pliers like this, just a small pair, I managed to make these, bend them into position. Let me get them straight. I need two hands for this. Right, so those two will work when I get them up there. And from an old piece of track that's been used, I've cut out one buffer, which I'm going to stick on here at the appropriate height, and then I'll put some on the back as well to hold it together. Then I will glue this down to the track, and then I'll cut some more spare of these, because on the actual photo I've got, buffer stops were used to weight it down afterwards as well, so they'll go on there holding it down to the track. One has to be really creative at times. You can see now I've got the dilapidated buffer stop there now. I've got them held in place with all sorts of elastic bands and clamps and stuff like that, and I've got them glued in place now, so I'm going to see what that looks like when it's dried, and then at least it'll hold, it should hold together then, because it's been glued on with some Gorilla Glue. So we'll see what it's like when it dries. Just to remind you, This is a little blighter that I'm trying to recreate. You can see it's a very dilapidated buffer stop, and that's what I want to do. Well, I've got the buffer all glued up now. You'll see it's a little bit messy with the glue, and it's actually stuck down to the paper that I've done, but I've even replicated the crooked buffer there, so I'm thinking it's going to look pretty good when it's finished. So it's got to wait till it's dry now, and then I can put it in position, and I'm going to stand some more sleepers down in this direction, so it'll help to hold it down, and that's how it was on the picture. I've now got the buffer stop completed. You can see still got some bits of glue on there which I can take off later. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it in place. I've already prepared a little bit here by knocking a hole in the scenery there, and what I'm going to do now, this works better when it's wet, this glue, so I'm going to stick a little bit of spit on there and a little bit of spit on there. I'm going to stick a blob of glue there. You don't need much of this stuff because it really does expand. I'm going to put a slight amount on this here too, and I'm going to do these two rails here, and that should be all it needs, because that is now going to go into place there. Get it back as far as I can. You know what, I think that might just do it there. For double indemnity, I'm just waltzing off to get my old trusty, you know what. I'm going to lay that on there, and that'll hold it in place until it's dried. So job's a good one, and we're nearly there now. I wasn't able to get any smaller corrugated paper, so what I did was I repurposed these. I got some chopsticks or whatever you want to call them. They're actually barbecue skewers, and I've just cut them to length, and I'm going to glue them on there. I think that'll make a nice corrugated iron roof. Well, let's take a look how these things worked out now. First of all is the roof. That looks okay. And secondly, the structure itself. I actually put that type of stuff on it, so when we get this roof on here now, that's what it's going to look like. I don't think that looks too bad, does it? So I'm going to glue the roof on now, and then the next job will be to paint it all up, paint it inside as well, and then it's ready for placing on the model railway. As you can see, the new buffer stop is now in place. It's the one on the left there, and you can see I've reinforced it with some old sleepers like it was in the real world. I've just got to now fill in a little bit at the back. You can see there where the expanding glue was. I'm going to fill that in with vegetation, and then that will be lost in the wilderness. I've also got some spare coal that's actually fallen down at the side here, and it would, so at the side of both of these tracks there's lots of coal that's missed the target, and it's been left there and left to go on the floor. So I've also now got everything ready in place for the new coaling plant, and the coaling plant is just waiting to dry now. So when the paint's dried on the new coaling plant, in it goes. We're almost at the conclusion of this little exercise now. Well, this is what I've been waiting for. Finally put it in place. So I'm going to put this expanding glue into this hole that I made. That's going to really expand. And at the other end, where's the hole gone there? It's down into that hole, that locks it in place. And at the other end here, I'm going to put a wodge of this stuff down here. Oh, too much. Gotta get rid of it, it'll expand. Just need a bit of a stick to, oh no, that'll do it now, moved it over. Now I need to check if this runs underneath it okay. I've got glue on my hand, so I've got to be careful here now. Yep, that works okay. Just got to get it in the right angle now and check that it's level, which it is. Okay, that's it. That's it in place now. I'll just show you a view from the front. And there it is. The brand new coaling facilities at Lee's. And there's the old one that it replaced. And I'm very happy now because that, ladies and gentlemen, is Lee's engine shed as it was.